Yes, we are. All right. It's a good evening, Manerundi Madekwana, to everybody that's watching this show today. Welcome to another edition of Live Chats on Monday with your host, the one, the only, the most handsome man alive, Ronald Muringai. And today, I think we're joined by people from all over the world, from all over Africa, all over South Africa. But I think there's people that I want to especially welcome, who are joining us from Zimbabwe to watch this chat, because as you know, myself, of course, come from that most beautiful country in Africa, from Zimbabwe. And I'm joined today by someone that, of course, we grew up there in the same family, in the same house, who is my big brother, Timothy Muringai. Mr. Timothy, how's it?
How are you, Ronnie? How are you doing today?
Life is good, life is good. And I think I'll have to ask the question that everybody wants to know. Is it going to be Trump or is it going to be Biden in 2 weeks' time?
Well, the good thing about elections in America is like the element of surprise. Last time we thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win overwhelmingly, but uh, democracy came up and Trump pulled a shocker to everybody. So right now, I can't cast no lot. I mean, whoever gets in is okay.
You're not betting anything for this time around. No, totally understandable.
Nah,
I think
nah, nah. Because the last
betting.
time that happened, I was sure, and then wasn't sure. So now
No.
it's just like if you listen to them pundits, it's like they say something is going to happen, and then now you're like, not really. Because I just heard one of your preachers in South Africa last year preaching about, he was preaching and focusing and prophetizing that in 2020, he went in January, he saw it was good. And then he went
Oh,
to February.
January.
And then now he didn't see himself in jail. I heard he was in jail on Friday. He didn't see that. I didn't hear that prophecy.
Right, moving right along before we get lynched by you don't know his fans, yeah, and we're not going to be trying to invoke their anger and their wrath tonight. But I think there's an election I would like people to host out there. So of course we're talking about Trump and Biden, but I think there's one election that people need to participate in tonight in this particular session as they're watching. My big brother here, that ugly person that you're seeing there, has always thought he's better looking than me. So I want you to go to the comment section and comment whether you vote for me or you vote for him as who looks better than the other. Do you have a sales pitch for yourself, sir, before the people start voting out there?
Ronnie, I know you try hard, man, but once you start growing that hair, maybe you might be number 3. Right now, you don't have any hair to talk about. So, I mean, we thank God that mom kind of gave you the color, you kind of got light skinned. Otherwise, that would have been, if you're as dark as me, man, you would have been ugly.
Yeah, whatever. So, but anyway, let's talk some real issues, because I think as you potentially have been watching a lot of my sessions throughout the year, pretty much. I think we started in July thereabouts. We've talked a lot and we've touched on a lot of aspects on this fatherhood thing. How it works when people are not there, how it works when people are there. What things should happen when they are there, and all of this, of course, comes from the book that I wrote on fatherhood, based primarily on the experience that I had, or pretty much didn't have with my dad, our dad, as it were. And I want to find out. I do mention in the book that by the time mom and dad separated, I think I must have been doing grade 1 or grade 2 or something. I was a very young kid. So I really did not feel or experience much of the anger or the guilt, whatever that would have come around with that as a child. And I want to find out from you, since you were a bit grown at the time, you were a bit more aware of what was happening at the time. How was that experience for you like, as a child, seeing your parents separate at that age?
Well, first of all, I want to go into who dad was. I mean, I know you were a kid, and a lot of things that we did with him, you probably didn't recognize because, like you said, you were still young and all that other stuff. But the backstory of it was like, dad was working for the National Railways of Zimbabwe, and I was asking mom the other day, like, why did we keep moving from city to city and town to town because she said that if you wanted to be promoted with the railway company, you had to move to where the promotions were. So that kind of created an instability. And for me, it kind of prepared me for, like, you'd have friends in this one town, a year later you're moving. You have friends in another city, then in 6 months he gets another promotion, you're moving. So it was like a yo-yo. So for me, getting back to your point, when it finally divorced, it wasn't really like a shock. I mean, because like, most of the times when he was there for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then he's posted in another area since he first was a railway guard. The people that work in the back coaches of a train, and they make sure everything is okay, and then he'll be gone. So really, he wasn't home that much. But when he was home, I mean, we had the best times. We used to go watch soccer and take you, uh, even though you didn't really notice much. But I guess I understand where you're coming from, because you didn't have that relationship to a little older, which was kind of little late at that point, because you had formed your opinion as a man. So there was kind of like that it's like what can I say, resentment for your father, like, why did I have to go through this stuff when you were there, that kind of thing. You're a kid, so you expect your parents to be there at every go. So when the divorce finally came, I think I was like 12 or 13. I mean, at that point, mom always used to emphasize the point that the divorce was not between uh, uh, us, his kids, and him. It was between her and him. So we had nothing to do with it. Because every time we tried to be mad at him or whatever for not getting like the extra stuff that we needed, she'd be like, well, he's still your father. You need to respect him. And that's it. No conversation. You know how mom is. Uh, with a 5'3" self. Back in them days, I thought maybe she was like 6 foot, because she used to pack her punch. But yeah, it really didn't bother me, because for me, I was a happy child. I used to go with dad in every place and enjoy things. So I didn't experience what you experienced. But now that you wrote it in your book, we kind of saw what the light was in that area.
And I think for you then, being that much older and that much more mature, as it were, as a child anyway, and
I'm
trying to
not that old, much older than you though.
you're like 45, bro. You're like, aren't you like 60? I mean, shucks, I've just turned 20.
But
What
I
more?
don't even have no white hair. Look at me. Look at you.
Whilst we're on that, viewers, you heard it. If you hadn't caught it before, we are voting. You can go to the comment section and vote who you think looks better than the other. I maintain that I still look better than my old brother. He looks as ugly as the back of a bus. But anyway, we'll see your votes. I see some votes are coming in already, and people are voting the wrong way. But let's leave that aside. I'm thinking now, you are slightly older as a child. You're seeing this separation of the parents taking place, and of course, like you say, you were a happy child, you were a bubbly child, you're the loud guy. You've always been that guy. And I suppose then it would have helped you kind of deal with the situation, as it were. But did you notice any changes then in your relationship, perhaps with dad, after the divorce? You were close, you went to the football, etc., like you were saying. And after that happened, then when dad was no longer in the house and staying permanently with us guys, did you see any difference in that relationship between yourself and him, or otherwise with him and the children as in general?
Well, like I alluded to before, when dad was still in the household, like he was working in human resources for the National Railway. So uh, sometimes he would come and pick me up like on Thursdays, and then we'll travel to like the regions that he used to cover, like Kadoma. So the relationship for me per se didn't really change, because uh, like I said before, when he was working and he was in the house, we never used to see him because he used to work night shifts. And then when he comes in, he's sleeping all day. And then we're playing outside and all this other stuff. So and then When he wants to get promoted, he moves to other cities and all this other stuff. So that really helped me, I think, as a kid, kind of adjust with the absence that was there. But let me tell you one interesting story, though, that Dad and I experienced. I've always told this to some of my close friends and stuff. That kind of changed the way I treat people until today. You know, Dad was a person who was very personable and networked a lot. So this one time I remember there was an impending strike in Kadoma for railway workers. So then he comes and picks me up from, I used to go to Blakeston on a Thursday and then pack my bags and whatever. So we headed out for Kadoma. And then he's in his suits and all that other stuff. Then we get to the railway workers, and this I'll never forget. He took off his suit, he took off his tie, and then he put them in the car. Then people used to cook their food in like metal tins and shovels. They used to cook their meat on the shovel, and then the ugali or sadza in a metal pot. And then in regular uh, instances, I've seen a lot of people, our uncles and all these other people, they won't eat that. So Dad went in, folded his shirt, and the workers were right there. They were changing the railway lines. It's physical, manual work. It's hot. Then he goes and he sits down with them, and he's like, "So what's the problem here?" And they're like, "Oh, these are the guys that come here. They think that they're educated too much. They can't talk to us, blah, 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 blah." When he sat down and started eating with them guys at their level, because you see, this is a boss coming to eat with people on a railway line. Probably some of them don't wash their hands and all this other stuff. You know how those roughnecks were. It changed the way that I viewed life from that point, because those are the pointers that I used to look at. The divorce didn't really affect me that much until maybe when I was older, because I had a lot of the uncles and all this other stuff that used to kind of fill the void, come visit us and see us or whatever. But then like a son, you're always looking up to your dad. What is he doing? Who is he talking to? Blah, 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 blah. So you want to be like him. So when he showed me that humbleness, that kind of changed my life to the most. Until today, that's the way I treat everybody. So our relationship, me and him, I think when our parents separated, it kind of got frayed a little bit in my mind, but I really didn't express it, because I would spend most of my time with him in Melbourne, and then you guys were in Hatfield, and I insisted that I go live with him wherever he went. So for me, it didn't change a whole lot, but for you guys, like now I'm finding out a lot more new stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I suppose these are conversations then, which is why I think we're trying to talk about these issues more and more, so we can try and assist people out there, man. To say you're not alone. What you're feeling, you're not. It's not exclusive to you. In other words, so what you're going through, potentially somebody else has gone through, and we can always then help each other to heal and, of course, to become better into the next generation for our children, as it were. But I think I'm hearing something important that you spoke about earlier. In that, at least that I can also testify to, that mom did not try to put a wedge between us and dad, even post the divorce. I know, especially even when we were speaking in anger, she would still maintain that, you know what, he's still your dad. You must still go and see him. When we're struggling to get fees from him or school uniform, whatever, she would still maintain. How do you think that's important then, to try and help the relationship between children and their fathers going in that case where parents themselves no longer see eye to eye?
I think at the end of the day, like there's that proverb, I'm not sure which African country it comes from, where it says that when elephants fight, uh, the grass suffers. So in this situation, Dad had other kids outside, our sisters and our brothers. Um, and Mom used to tell us that we need to treat him as the father of the house, no matter, she's like, if even if he was a crazy guy on the street, he was still your father. That's the message that she always used to tell me all the time. And then she was like, you need to visit your relatives on your dad's side no matter what. So, me trying to fulfill like my parents' wishes, both mom and dad, because I seen them in a good time. But even when they were divorced, there was no like animosity in front of the kids. See, we'll just hear snippets here and there that of things that were said. But when they were in front of us, they tried to maintain a civil relationship. They'll be joking. And I remember sometimes dad used to come and take us and mom and go shopping or whatever, do whatever, and then he does whatever he needs to do. So I think for parents that are divorced or that have kids with that they don't live with, it is very important to make sure that they fill that void, because when kids grow up, they look for what can I say, like a role model. So no matter what the relationship between you and the spouse is going through, it is important to always maintain that relationship with your kids. It's got nothing to do with your kids. Just you and the person that you're involved with had a falling out. Don't make it a bitter route where you're like, oh, don't do this for your dad, don't do this for your mom. Even like when we grew up and then we started working and doing good and whatever, mom always used to say, hey, remember your dad needs XYZ. Remember to send him some money if he needs one, whatever. And you remember that Olga and him had like a beautiful relationship, Sandra, Marvin, and all them other people. So for us, I think we were blessed to have a mother who was a Christian and understood the Christian principles, because there's a Christian that sometimes they don't understand the Bible. They just beat you with tongues and scriptures, but they don't live them. You know what I mean? But mom, I remember when I was a teenager, I was a hothead, and she would teach the Bible, but then she wouldn't try and force it on me or bro hit me like you need to listen to this, blah 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 blah, because I think she always understood that she had a handicap with the father not being in the house, so she's tried to balance that by being diplomatic. So I encourage people. I know divorces happen and separations happen and kids out of wedlock happen, and what they call mistakes. There are no mistakes, because when you're born, it's like God wanted you to be here. So always be in the life of your children and mold them to the people that you want them to be. Otherwise, you have a Ronald over here who will write books about you.
Okay, very funny. Anyway, I'm thinking now, you mentioned that you were a hothead as a youth, and I think I remember a bit of that as well. So much that you were even suspended from high school the one time because you were caught kissing
Hey,
on the.
hey, 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 we're not talking about that.
And I'm thinking, okay, let's leave that. So you now stepping up as big brother, as it were, as the firstborn. Firstborns generally they think they're deputy parents. I don't know where they get that from. That somehow a lot of people that I've spoken to just think they're bigger, their elder siblings want to impose themselves. Even growing up, even now that we're old, they still think they run the show. And I'm speaking in code here to directly to you, but also not directly to you. Anyway. Do you think, though, that potentially the divorce might have had an extra zinger to try and push you to even become a bit more forceful as a parent, as a deputy parent, as it were, as you were to ask your siblings?
No, I mean, do you know, I give that back to our parents. Like, we come from a bigger household. Like I said earlier, our dad had kids besides us with our mom, and he always instilled on his part that I was the eldest boy. I always used to hear that all the time. And then, I was named after grandpa and he was a big guy. So it was like responsibility ever since I was a kid. Oh, you need to do this. And the one thing that mom did, that I kind of guess I thank you up to today. She always used to say, "You are the oldest. You need to look after the young ones." That was bro. And if anything happened to you, and I was around and I didn't react, or if people tried to threaten you or try to beat you or anything like that, and I didn't do nothing, I was more afraid of mom than the beating out kid if I was to fight people on the street. You know what I mean? So that, I guess, continuous reminding. If even I think even dad, even on himself, was like, you need to act in a certain way because you're the eldest in the family. So you need to model yourself. You need to do this. And I don't think the divorce kind of pushed me to be a responsible person. I think it was because mom always used to say, if you succeed, I don't worry about the rest of them. We are good because they'll be looking at you. And to piggyback on that, I remember the one time that I told a certain person, to stay in the store, because there was a store that we had. What was that? Northville or somewhere in Bulawayo? North, yeah. I said, Ronald, stay in the house because me and my friend were going to, stir the bees' nest. There was bees and they were having honey. So me and my friend, we thought, you know what? If we poke these bees and they leave, then we can get that honey. So I told Ronald, hey, stay in the store. And then lo and behold, we attack them bees. We hit them with them stones and then they leave. So they leave the honey, but then they come after us. So as I turn around and we're running away, I see this little guy right here following right behind me. And the bees ate him up. His face was like this. But as soon as I got, because everybody was standing outside, they see the bees coming. They were so mad. Ronnie's going, woo! He's crying. And I've run into the store. Boom! My mom is like, where's your brother? I'm like, I don't know. And then she gave me a slap. What? I told you to watch after your brother. So yeah, man. After that, I was like, every time I go, I said, don't follow me. By the time I hit the corner, this guy is right behind me. So after that, I had to look after you and everybody else. So I felt kind of responsible at that point.
I think we should just place on record that I did write about that story, by the way, but just for everybody that's viewing out there, just Ronald generally does not cry. He doesn't have any tears in his eyes. He doesn't cry. That statement you just had there was a bit of a manufacture. He's trying to cook the vote.
Ask Olga, she will tell you. But I have V11s.
Now you have a son now. He's pretty much in many ways like me, as you say. And I'm trying to think, has that experience, therefore, of you being, firstborn, deputy dad, as it were, helped in shaping you to become a better dad to your son?
Deputy dad is kind of a heavy title, man. I don't think I think I'm a dictator when it comes to the family. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes I guess you guys.
We know that. We know that.
And then sometimes I know you don't even want to pick up your phone when I'm like, you need to do this. So I mean, like I said earlier on, my one goal in life, like I tell my son nowadays, is like, I don't know who told me this. I think there was a preacher like Pastor Simango. I think you remember him when we used to go to Zayoja camp meetings and stuff. He talked about being a mediocre person. And that sermon kind of hit me like, there are very few people who push themselves to their capabilities, but everybody else is mediocre. So then when I when we used to sit down and talk all the time as a family, like when having dinner and stuff, my goal, I always wanted to be an asset to myself. When I became an asset to myself, I said when I pass that stage, then I want to be an asset to my family. I don't, because when you're an asset to yourself, you trust yourself, you do things by yourself, you know you can trust yourself with money, any tasks or whatever. So you're a self-starter. Then when you're an asset to your family, you want to make sure that everybody is making it. So I tried to become that, and I try to help in as much as I can, with my family, my siblings, and whoever else that needs that help. So it's basically trying to be an asset. And then I said to myself, when I finish that stage of being an asset to myself, I want to be an asset to my community and do community things, and then my country, and then, the general world per se. So at the end of the day, uh, I used to chase a lot of money, so I thought that money was the thing that will solve a lot of the situations, and I made a lot of it. But then it's a hollow ground at the end of the day. I'm more happier now where with my son, we spend more time now. He's in college. He's hard-headed, but it has taught me too to become patient, because like, my patience was like a little thin dealing with anything.
Yeah,
So
absolutely
now
right.
it's like now it's like I'm dealing with Ronald 2.0, it's like, no, dad, I know what I'm doing. Like, you don't know what you're doing. But what I've figured out now is like, just let the man be. He's like 19. He's trying to figure himself out. So let him be. I mean, like I told him the other day, I said, I'm gonna give you this. Like when you're parents, you're like, I'm gonna let you do this by yourself. But at the end of the day, you're always looking in the back, like, hey, where's he doing? Where's he going? And all that stuff. Because it's that nature, I guess, that God gave to us. So I don't think my son will say I'm a good dad, because I think I don't let him do the things that he wants to do. So, I mean, it's a work in progress.
Work in progress indeed. And I'm trying to think now, when you look obviously at the time that you were 19 and the kind of relationship that you had with dad versus the relationship that you have with your son now, do you think potentially you've become a better version than what dad was, or do you think you're sleeping and selling out the generations?
I think dad was a bit, the thing about dad was like he was laid back. He didn't try and force his thinking on you. He would just tell you like a few words and stuff, and then let it go. But with me, I guess the problem I have with my son, I guess, like I saying, is a 2.0 of you. You are like that person that when you disagree with us as a family, Ronald just goes, "Oh yeah, 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 absolutely, 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 yeah, yeah, it's gonna be done. Yeah,
That's fake
yeah,
news.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay, okay." And then pew, the other way. So Ronald, did you do? Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm working on it. Absolutely, yeah. That's exactly like my son. So it drives me crazy. Like, man, we talked about this, and he's always like, "I got this, Dad." I say you're your uncle 2.0, so that's what I surrender.
Okay. So the last question that I always ask people that come to the show, um, is this, and I always say, imagine if this video right now, if this broadcast, this live webcast was going to be watched by everybody in the world, what's the one thing that you'd like to tell the world right now?
We gotta love each other. That's it. I mean, despite the colors of everybody in the world, we all got red blood cells. So I think at the bottom of it is like we just gotta, if you okay, let me say this. We gotta learn to forgive, and then love is easier. So whatever situation that you grew up in, and I know some people were molested as kids, some people were beat up as kids, some people were abandoned as kids, some people would come out of divorce that was, you know, contagious, some contentious, some come out of, you know, in any circumstance on this planet Earth, somebody has gone through what you have gone through. So the two words I would leave everybody with is forgive, love. Everything should be good after that.
Forgive and love. Thank you, man. And I think there's somebody who's just made a comment here on social media. Some Sarah Baker says, "You've always been supportive of me raising my sons, Timothy." I think she's talking directly to you.
Oh yeah. That's my
Always.
ride and die homie right there.
And so
Sarah.
she appreciates your words of wisdom. So I think it's kind of evident and testament really to the love and that you have. You know, I know you deal with a lot at church, you know, with the youth and the young kids, and etc. So I think, yeah, keep on doing that, man. I think we really want to be not writing books about you, as you say, and hopefully, of course, we'll do it better for our children than our parents did for us. But otherwise, thank you for featuring, man. Hope everything goes well there in Columbus, Ohio, and hope you place your vote in the right box this time.
Hey, can I say one thing, man?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, I take personal checks, Visa, everything. So you can pay me after this, PayPal, all that other stuff. There's nothing for free, you know, except the sun.
That's the dreaming side of life. You did speak about your love for money earlier. Unfortunately, of course, this is a community service you're running. Speaking of which, we were running a vote earlier. I think people made their comments, and it's quite clear that without any auditing necessary, that I have won the elections.
What?
Better looking than you. So
all right, bro. I love you, man.
Love you too, buddy. Everybody
Keep up the good work.
We really appreciate it, man. Thanks for watching.
Right,
thank you for interacting with us. I think, like I said, this is the last session that we're having before the end of season 1. Season 1 has come to an end, really. We wanted to end it on a laugh, on a nice bang like we did today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be seeing you again soon. But otherwise, thank you for taking part, and thank you, Mr. Timothy. It's an adios, amigos.
Salute.